Hey guys, great to see you all here again. I'd like to thank PPCR for this opportunity. And my presentation today is pretty cool. It's about communicating research. And the idea here is that we build together a foundation so all of us can improve our scientific presentation, which I think it's really very much important. So by the end of this lecture, I really hope and believe that you all learned something valuable. I gather some interesting tips that I learned throughout the way, and this really changed my life. But the way that the way that I present my work and research, and even my lectures. So I hope you enjoy, and I would like to ask you please to comment and share your ideas and tips and resources that you use during your lectures. Thank you so much. And so for those that do not know me, my name is Michelle Menon. You can find me at this email. I do not have any conflict of interest in regard to this presentation. So without further ado, let's do it. So through our research and medical journey, we all attend a lot of lectures and presentations in different countries, different languages. And through this process, med school, residency, fellowship, even at the PPCR, we realize that there are many great and knowledgeable doctors and researchers that they end up being somehow underrated because they do not know how to communicate themselves. So it's pretty important for us to know how to communicate our research. And I'd like to share with you some of the tips that I learned throughout the way. I realized that most researchers, they don't give enough importance to the slideshow and the presentation. And if you think about the clinical research time frame, we usually spend years to come up with a good idea, and years or months to develop our protocol, other months to get it approved, some extra months to design and actually develop the study, and other months to submit, to review and resubmit the study. But on the presentation, we work like a couple of hours, maybe a couple of days if you really have time and it's a good season, maybe the weekend. So we really don't work hard enough, and we don't give enough time to develop our presentations. And if you think about it, that's technically, and that's in fact what will make people relate and get interested on your work. Sometimes you can submit your papers to conferences even before you publish. And when you present your work, that's when you get the feedback from whoever's watching and your colleagues. So the presentation is an important part of the research process, but because it's at the end, we tend not to put enough effort in it. Even sometimes when you have to present it, let's say to get a grant, to get funds for it, you have to learn how to come up with a good presentation and how to make people understand what you did, understand your research. And as a good slideshow and a good presentation, it's extremely important. So Melissa Marshall is one professor at Harvard that really helped me with this process of improving my presentations. She has a TED Talk, so if you want to Google it, you can find her. And she says that science not communicated, it's science not done. She gives a lot of talks to doctors, engineers, and like every possible area. And that's actually pretty true, because if you develop research, you have great research, but nobody knows it, it won't change anything. Sometimes you can even publish in a good journal, but will people take enough time to actually read it? While if you're in a conference, sometimes you have 10, 15 minutes, and that's when people would stop and pay attention on whatever you're saying. With that being said, and slides are really important. I don't know if you know about this, but PowerPoint was created in '87. It was first sold in '87. I'm from 88, so it's older than I am. I had classes in school with these retro projectors, with these slide projectors. Maybe you're not old enough to know what these guys are, but you're old enough to know what a computer are, or what a computer is, and that they improved a lot in the past 20, 30 years. But the master slide on PowerPoint was like this in 87, and it's like this in 2020. So it was the 90s, the 2000s, 2010s, and now we still have the same pattern of master slide. It just looks like something's wrong, right? We still have the bullet points, the master title in the middle, and we still have the same professors presenting the same lectures over the past 30 years. And that's what usually we have. We select a good looking design, and then we pick a colorful topic. Then the master slide already comes with the bullet points, which just makes our life easier. But as you can see, a slide with the bullet points can get very confusing and hard to follow. And it is also pretty tiring to have the presenter just reading whatever they want to say. And sometimes the presenter will just copy the text from the research manuscript. If the objective is reading, you don't need a presentation, right? Well, you can just read a journal. Even worse, sometimes you have a subtopic, which makes the fonts even smaller and just makes it even harder to read. What's the overall idea of the slide then? Just read it. Oh, wait, there's an image right there on the corner. Whoa, okay. Well, some of the tips I'll share with you today come from this book, The Craft of Scientific Presentations. Unfortunately, the image is too small. I cannot read anything that's written. And that's how you completely just lose the attention on the speaker and just start reading the text. And if you're still reading this along, I guess you got my point. Conclusion, but come on, that's what everybody does, isn't it? That's what you see on conferences. That's what we learn in med school. That's what we learn everywhere. And that's just absolutely not the best way to do it. First and most important tip is that it's scientifically proven that the most successful speakers are audience-centered with their focus and not speaking-centered. So if you think about this slide, it's a slide made for you to be comfortable when you speak, because you can just read it and just makes your life easier. But what about the audience? They won't be paying attention to it. They would just maybe just read. That's not the point. So we have to focus on your audience. For that to work, we have to understand our audience. We have 3 different types of audience. The first one is the one that just pays attention to the speaker. You just keep looking at me, I'm saying, and you just keep staring at me. The second one are the ones that just read the slides. They will follow the slides, they will read it, they will read it all fast, won't even look at your face. But most of the audience, most of the people, they're like me, and that's what we call the ping pong audience, which is the audience that look at the speaker and then go back to the slides, and then go back to the speaker, and then go back to the slides, and then go back to the speaker, go back to the slides. And then when they realize next, you don't remember anything that the speaker said, just lost track on the slides, and you didn't learn anything. So it's really important to have a slide that support what you're saying, a slide that's for your audience to understand, and not to support your confidence. And now it gets even worse, because we have a lot of online courses, online conferences, and you have a lot of noise during your lecture. So people might not be even paying attention to your lecture. They just might have the computer on. They might be cooking, they might have the kids around playing. And so you have to develop something that will make them interested. You also have another point that they might not even be there. They might be sleeping. If the topic's something that they are really not willing to pay attention, it gets even harder. They might be sleeping. And so what we had as a ping pong audience that would look at you, look back to the slides. Now I feel like it's more of a soccer audience because I'm from Brazil. I can relate to that. The soccer audience, you have the ball, you have your teammates, you have the other team, you have the referee, you have everyone around. And then when you realize you just don't have the ball anymore and you're completely lost. So we have a lot of competition. We have to focus to help our audience to actually understand what we're saying. And with this type of slide, it just makes life harder. In that sense, on our slide, the first thing that we have to keep in mind to keep the audience's attention is that we should bring attention to the main idea, not the topic. So we have this pretty big, colorful topic in the middle of the slide. That's the only thing that everyone will read, the first sentence. And that's why instead of just having a topic, let's say methods, you have to write down a whole sentence because that's what the audience will read. That's what will keep their attention. So again, bring the attention to the main idea and not the topic. That will change the way that the audience keeps track of your slides. Second tip is that a picture is worth 1,000 words. Most of you already know that, but focus on the picture. The picture will help the audience to keep track of what you're saying. So they'll go back to the picture, even the ping pong audience will go back to you, go back to the picture, and they have the take-home message. Even again, as I said, the pandemic and the online conferences made it even harder to concentrate. So you have to use pictures in your favor. And people learn more deeply from words and images than from words alone. So begin the change. It's up to you. You just have to begin. It's scientifically proven that people tend to learn more if you use images. So use your slides as an opportunity for your work to stand out. Don't use your slides just to help your confidence. You have to be confident. Keep that in mind. When you go to a conference, nobody in the audience know more about your work than you do. So just keep confident. There's no need to have a lot of bullet points to help you with your confidence. Nobody will know what you were supposed to say more than you do. Another interesting tip is that you should practice your presentation at home with your kids, with your mom, with your family, with your grandma, and keep track of the audience reaction. This is my dog. I don't actually keep the track on her reaction, but when you present to other people, it will help you with timing. It will help you to keep your confidence and with your thinking. So try to present it at home a couple of times before you actually present it to the audience. Last and more important tips is use your space, colors, design, and fonts wisely. So this is the regular master slide. You can see that you have a lot of blank space here that it could be used. You have a lot of space here that's beautiful, but it's just for the design. So you lose almost half of your slide over here. Because of the bullet points, you also miss a lot of space here that could be used with information. And also because of the subtopics, now you have tiny little sizes that make just impossible to read. So if you think about all the blank space, you're actually using less than half of your screen just with the design and space that is not needed. Try to use your space and wisely. Also, use the colors wisely. So here you have green over green. You have to keep in mind that you have colorblind people in the audience. So try to focus on black and white, white and black, try to focus on that. You can add little design things as long as it won't take your space away. And another thing that most people don't know, you should use your fonts wisely. One thing that is interesting, you have 3 different types of fonts. You have serif, sans serif, and script. I personally love the way that script fonts look. They look great, look like a wedding invitation, but it's really hard to read. So you in presentations, most of the time we use the sans serif fonts. That's pretty straightforward and easier to read. And then you can ask, can I use serifs and times New Roman? And then the answer is sometimes people use it when you want to address something that's already established. So you could use serif fonts for a background, for example, because it shows something that's old, that's established, that's already there. So that's one example of use of the serif fonts, but most of the time, just skip with the sans serif. It will help your audience to read it easily. And interesting resources. You could use PowerPoint, Canva, Google Slides, and Keynote. They also have some designs that can help you, some tools that will help you if you have any questions about it, but you can just email me. But the main thing is understand the design, understand that something that's ancient, try to use all the space that you have, use images. And for images, I really like Pixabay because they have a lot of copyright-free images, but you could also use Pexels and Unsplash. They also have copyright-free images. Today I use the Slides Carnival, where they have interesting designs that you can just download for free and use it on PowerPoint, for example. And it's really cool because it's free. They give you other tools that you could use, such as images or some different items that you could add that I used here also. You could also find those on Duarte and on the Noun project. And please share and comment other tips and other resources that you use on River. Please comment, that will improve a lot my presentation as well. I know I'm not the one that knows everything about presentations, but I try to share with you some of the tips that I learned throughout the way. And please share other tips that you might have. And last but not least, don't spend your last slide with just questions. Use the last slide to include the take-home message. So for me, in summary today, try to develop an audience-focused slide presentation, and that will help your work to stand out. Thank you so much. Email me, but please add comments on River. Thank you, guys.